At the heart of the galaxy, orbiting a blue and green planet, sat the Varan Academy. It was a place of legends, a training ground for the most advanced warriors from dozens of star systems. Here, aliens with multiple limbs, exoskeletons, wings, and built-in weaponry trained tirelessly, preparing for conflicts that spanned entire galaxies. Humans were rare in this academy. Most species considered them weak, fragile, and barely capable of surviving in space, let alone participating in combat. Among the many students, one human girl moved quietly through the crowded halls. Her small frame and unassuming demeanor made her almost invisible. She was often at the back of the line, not because she wanted to be, but because the other students didn't notice her. Even instructors sometimes skipped over her during roll call. Her hair was always pulled back simply, her uniform plain, and she never raised her hand to boast about knowledge she had not yet proven. Her name was Lura. Ara knew what everyone thought of her. They whispered behind her back during training, calling her the weak human girl. A joke or an accident of evolution. She heard it all, but she never let it bother her. She had learned early in life that humans were underestimated, and there was a power in being invisible. While others relied on natural strength, speed, or alien abilities, Leora relied on observation, intelligence, and relentless preparation. Every morning before classes, she rose before the sun even touched the academy's upper decks. While other students slept or practiced basic drills, she ran through complex simulations in the virtual combat chambers. She studied patterns, algorithms, and strategies, learning how to anticipate movements, read intentions, and exploit weaknesses. Her mind was a weapon far sharper than any physical tool. During physical training sessions, she appeared slow, uncoordinated even, compared to the aliens with forearms or wings that could carry them across the field. The other students mocked her, laughing when she stumbled or took longer to complete a maneuver. Leora ignored them. Every misstep was a lesson, every mistake a chance to improve. One day, the academy held a mock battle in the training arena. Teams were assigned randomly, and the rules were simple. Capture the opponent's flag while defending your own. Leora's team was paired with some of the strongest students, aliens who had already won multiple championships. The other team consisted of equally powerful cadets. From the moment the battle began, it seemed hopeless for her team. Leora's small size made her a target, and she was almost immediately surrounded, but Leora did not panic. She analyzed the situation quickly, noticing patterns in her opponent's movements. One of them always moved too fast without checking behind. Another left a small blind spot near the corner of the arena. Using that knowledge, she dodged, feinted, and moved like a shadow. Within moments, she snatched the opposing team's flag right under their noses and returned it to her base. Her teammates were stunned. Even the instructors paused. It's uncertain whether they had just witnessed a human cadet performing a miracle. Word of her unexpected victory spread quickly. By lunchtime, whispers ran through the cafeteria. Some students refused to believe it, claiming it was luck. Others were curious, quietly observing her from a distance. Leora sat at a corner table, eating alone as always. She didn't seek attention. She only focused on improvement. Knowing that victories were fleeting unless she prepared for the next challenge, classes at Varan Academy were intense. Subjects ranged from galactic history and interstellar politics to advanced weapon, engineering, and zero-gravity combat techniques. Leora excelled in theoretical classes, often solving problems that baffled her instructors. Yet in practical exercises, she remained underestimated. Her human body was still fragile compared to alien physiques, and most instructors assumed she would never truly shine in combat. Outside the classroom, Leora's routine never wavered. She spent hours in the simulator, practicing duels against virtual opponents that mimicked the tactics of various alien species. She experimented with unorthodox strategies that relied on speed, misdirection, and environmental manipulation rather than brute force. She learned to use the arena itself as a weapon, turning walls, lighting, and even gravity fields to her advantage. Every session left her exhausted, but she thrived on the challenge. Her quiet determination began to draw attention from a few perceptive instructors. One, A veteran named Commander Rezin observed her during a combat simulation. Rezin had fought in real wars across multiple systems and could recognize talent even when it came in small human packages. He noticed the subtle precision in Leora's movements, the way she anticipated opponents' actions, and the calm patience she maintained under pressure. After the session, Rezin approached her privately. "Human, you move differently," he said, studying her carefully. "Not stronger, not faster, but smarter. You see things others miss. That is rare. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." Leora nodded quietly, appreciating the rare acknowledgement. She didn't seek praise, but the words gave her a small sense of validation. She continued her training, now aware that someone in authority had noticed her potential. Even as Leora made progress, challenges remained. Some students tried to intimidate her, testing whether her quiet demeanor would crack under pressure. A towering alien named Krathik cornered her in the gym one afternoon, grinning as he flexed his enormous arms. "So, human, you think you belong here?" He sneered. "Everyone knows humans are weak. You'll never keep up." Leora's response was simple: silence. Instead of confronting him directly, she watched, studied, and waited. The next day, during an obstacle course exercise, she used the techniques she had perfected in secret. While Krathik charged ahead relying on raw strength, Leora navigated the course with precision, completing it faster and more efficiently. Other students whispered in disbelief. The weak girl had beaten a warrior considered invincible. This pattern continued over weeks. Leora's victories were always understated, often unnoticed by the majority, but they built steadily. She never boasted, never challenged others openly, and never allowed herself to become overconfident. She knew that her strength lay in unpredictability and intelligence, not appearances. One evening, the Academy announced a surprise interspecies tournament. Teams would compete in a series of battles designed to test skill, strategy, and adaptability. Cadets from all ranks were excited, hoping to showcase their prowess. Leora quietly analyzed the tournament rules, memorizing every detail. She knew that this was her chance to reveal her hidden abilities, not through arrogance, but through undeniable results. When the tournament began, the arena was packed. The stands were filled with students, instructors, and even some visiting dignitaries. Leora's first match was against a squad of alien cadets renowned for their combat skills. The crowd expected a quick defeat, and many even bet against her. She remained calm, scanning the opponent's formations, noting their weaknesses. As the match unfolded, she moved with precision, dodging attacks that would have crushed a human and striking at key points that others missed. She used her size to her advantage, slipping through gaps too small for her larger opponents. She turned the arena's environmental hazards to her favor, creating traps that disrupted her enemy's rhythm. Within minutes, she had outmaneuvered the entire squad. Securing victory in a way that left the audience stunned, the murmurs grew louder. Whispers turned into conversations. "Did you see that? A human cadet just dominated the best alien warriors." Impossible. They said humans were weak. Even the instructors exchanged glances, unsure how to process what they had witnessed. After the match, Leora quietly returned to the sidelines. She did not celebrate. Her focus was already on the next challenge, analyzing strategies for her upcoming opponents. Her humility and quiet confidence made her even more enigmatic. The more others underestimated her, the more she could demonstrate that human ingenuity was a force to be reckoned with by the end of the first day of the tournament. She had won multiple rounds, each time employing different strategies that highlighted her intelligence, adaptability, and strategic thinking. No two victories were alike, and every opponent was left questioning how a human could achieve such feats. Some tried to learn from her, while others despaired, realizing that brute strength alone could never match her tactical mind. Despite the growing attention, Leora remained detached from fame or recognition. She understood that her journey was not about proving herself to others, but about mastering her own abilities. Each success was a stepping stone toward greater challenges, preparation for a world that underestimated humans at every turn. In her private moments, Leora reflected on her path. She remembered the early days when alien cadets laughed at her, the times she stumbled during drills, and the countless hours she spent alone in the simulator. All of it had led to this moment. She understood that humans were often underestimated because their strength was hidden, subtle, and different. While other species relied on natural abilities, humans relied on creativity, adaptability, and relentless persistence. As night fell over the academy, the lights of distant stars twinkling beyond the observation windows, Leora trained in silence. Her body moved gracefully through combat simulations, her mind calculating probabilities and predicting outcomes. She was alone, yet fully aware that every action brought her closer to proving that humans were more than just fragile beings. They were unpredictable, resilient, capable of dominating any challenge when underestimated. By the time sleep finally took her, Leora had already planned the next day's training. The tournament was only the beginning, and she knew that bigger challenges awaited. In a galaxy where humans were dismissed as weak, she would quietly rise, showing that the true power of humanity was not in appearances, but in intellect, strategy, and the indomitable will to survive and triumph. And so, the quiet human girl continued her journey. In the halls of the Veron Academy, in the eyes of skeptical peers, and even under the watchful gaze of instructors, Leora remained unseen in many ways. Yet, in every battle, every simulation, and every victory, she was slowly building a legenda human who would dominate not through sheer force, but through unmatched cunning preparation and the unyielding spirit that no other species could comprehend. The next morning, the academy was buzzing with excitement. Leora's victories from the previous day had already begun to ripple through the student body. Some whispered about the quiet human girl who had outsmarted and outmaneuvered the best alien cadets, while others scoffed, convinced it was luck. Leora herself paid no attention to the rumors. She knew luck had nothing to do with her success. Preparation and observation were her real weapons. Her first class of the day was Advanced Tactical Strategy. The instructor, a stern alien named Corin, began by dividing the students into small groups for a series of simulated battles. Leora's group consisted of 2 large alien cadets and 1 smaller one, all of whom were skeptical of her abilities. As the battle began, the aliens immediately tried to take control, expecting Leora to follow along passively. Instead, Leora remained silent, watching their movements carefully. She noticed small habits in each teammate and opponent, the way one cadet always favored his right side, the tendency of another to rush without looking behind, and subtle timing patterns in attacks. Using this knowledge, she directed her teammates subtly, positioning them in ways that maximized efficiency. When her turn to act came, she executed a series of maneuvers that turned the tide of the simulation. Her group won decisively, and Corin, who rarely praised anyone, raised an eyebrow in surprise. After class, whispers filled the corridors. A few of Leora's peers began observing her more closely, curious about the techniques she used. A small group of younger cadets approached her, shyly asking for advice. She smiled politely, giving simple guidance without revealing all her strategies. By staying reserved, she ensured that no one could predict her full potential. That afternoon, the Academy's instructors held an unscheduled combat drill. The challenge was simple, yet brutal. Cadets had to navigate a complex obstacle field while avoiding attacks from multiple drones programmed with adaptive AI. Leora's classmates assumed she would be one of the first to fail. She stood at the starting line, her small frame dwarfed by her peers. The signal sounded and chaos erupted. Leora moved carefully, analyzing each drone's behavior. She noticed a pattern in their targeting system and adjusted her movements to exploit a blind spot near a high wall. While the larger cadets relied on brute strength to smash through obstacles or evade attacks, Leora used her environment to her advantage. She vaulted over barriers, slid through narrow openings, and even redirected a drone into another using a simple trick with her momentum. By the time she reached the end of the course, she was the first to finish. Her victory understated but undeniable. Rumors of her skills spread beyond the Academy's halls. A few instructors discussed her unusual aptitude in private, noting that while humans were generally underestimated, Leora displayed strategic intelligence that surpassed even the most advanced species. Commander Rezin watched her progress with quiet approval. He had never seen a cadet who combined patience, observation, and ingenuity in such a perfect balance. He knew that if anyone in the galaxy could prove humanity's worth in combat, it was her. Later that week, a new challenge emerged. The Academy received a message from the Galactic Defense Council. A rogue faction had begun raiding supply stations on nearby colonies. The Council requested that the Academy prepare a rapid response team for reconnaissance and intervention. The instructors decided to use this as a practical test for the cadets, simulating a real combat scenario. Leora's name was called to join one of the response teams. Her team consisted of experienced cadets, many of whom were skeptical about the human girl. They left the Academy in a small shuttle, heading toward the designated sector. The briefing room was tense, filled with cadets anxious about encountering simulated enemies. Leora listened quietly, absorbing every detail. She noticed that the alien cadets often overlooked logistical weaknesses in their planning. She made mental notes, preparing to use these oversights to her advantage. When they arrived at the sector, the team was immediately engaged in simulated skirmishes. Explosions and energy blasts lit the landscape, and chaos reigned. Her teammates rushed forward, relying on brute force and advanced weaponry. But the enemies anticipated these moves and countered effectively. Leora hung back, observing patterns in the attacks and noting the blind spots created by her teammates' predictable movements. Using subtle hand signals and whispered instructions, she began guiding the team. She redirected one cadet to flank an enemy squad while signaling another to set a controlled ambush. When it came time for direct confrontation, Leora moved swiftly, using cover, misdirection, and precise strikes to neutralize opponents efficiently. Her small frame allowed her to slip through tight spaces, outmaneuvering enemies who relied solely on strength. By the end of the simulation, her team had succeeded in securing the sector, largely due to her unseen influence. Back at the Academy, her success caused waves of astonishment. Even cadets who had doubted her abilities began reconsidering their assumptions about humans. Some sought her guidance, hoping to learn a fraction of her tactics. Others, driven by jealousy, tried to undermine her achievements, spreading rumors that she had been given special treatment or insider information. Leora ignored these attempts. She knew her victories spoke louder than gossip. Despite the growing attention, life at the Academy remained challenging. Alien cadets still attempted to test her limits. Sometimes through direct confrontation, other times through subtle sabotage. One night she discovered a practice weapon sabotaged in her locker. Instead of reacting with anger, she analyzed the situation, determining who had tampered with it and why. She confronted the cadet quietly, showing how the sabotage had failed and subtly demonstrating that her skills were far beyond what anyone anticipated. The lesson was clear. Underestimating her came at a cost. As days passed, Leora's reputation continued to grow. She became known as a cadet who could quietly outthink and outperform opponents far larger and stronger. Yet she never let pride cloud her judgment. Each day was a learning experience, and she treated victories as steps toward mastery rather than validation. This humility, combined with undeniable skill, made her presence both mysterious and intimidating. One afternoon, the Academy announced a special training exercise. Teams were tasked with defending a mock settlement against waves of simulated attackers. The exercise was designed to test coordination, adaptability, and leadership under pressure. Leora was assigned to a mixed species team, including some cadets who had previously dismissed her as weak. She remained quiet during the briefing, analyzing the terrain and predicting the likely patterns of attack. When the exercise began, the team immediately faced overwhelming pressure. The alien cadets charged forward recklessly, leaving gaps in their defenses. Leora moved among them, silently directing positions, adjusting formations, and setting traps. Her strategic insight allowed the team to repel the first wave of attackers with minimal casualties. Her peers began to notice that the human girl they had ignored was orchestrating their success without drawing attention to herself as the waves continued. Leora's skills became even more apparent. She anticipated enemy maneuvers, exploited weaknesses, and used the environment creatively. She guided the team through narrow passes, behind cover, and even into simulated danger zones to create advantages. Each victory was calculated, deliberate, and efficient. By the end of the exercise, her team had not only defended the settlement, but had done so in a way that minimized damage and casualties. Instructors were forced to acknowledge her strategic genius, though Leora herself remained quietly composed. Later that evening, she walked the quiet corridors of the academy, reflecting on the day's events. She understood that she had won battles not because of raw power, but because she had embraced the human advantage, intelligence, adaptability, and resilience. Other species relied on predictable strengths, while humans could innovate under pressure, turning apparent weaknesses into strengths. She smiled softly, knowing that her journey had only just begun. Over the following weeks, Leora continued to excel, each success reinforcing the notion that humans were underestimated at their peril. She faced new challenges from advanced combat simulations, 2 real-time tactical exercises, and she met each with calm determination. Her small victories began to shape a larger legend, an invisible force quietly, demonstrating that human ingenuity could outmatch the galaxy's elite warriors. By the end of the second part of her journey, Leora had become more than just a quiet, underestimated girl. She was a symbol of human potential, a reminder that strength was not always visible, and that the galaxy could not measure power solely by size or raw ability. She moved through the Academy's halls with quiet confidence, her eyes observing, calculating, and always preparing for the next challenge. She knew that the battles ahead would be harder, but she was ready. Her mind was her greatest weapon, and she had only begun to reveal the true extent of human capability. In her room that night, Leora sat at her small desk, reviewing strategies, simulations, and patterns she had noticed in recent exercises. She made notes, plotted new approaches, and visualized scenarios. While others celebrated victories or rested in complacency, she prepared. She understood that the galaxy was vast, full of unpredictable threats, and only those who adapted could survive. And Leora intended to be more than just a survivor. She intended to dominate every challenge, proving that humans, underestimated and dismissed, could stand among the greatest. Warriors of the galaxy. The early morning sunlight filtered through the windows of the Veron Academy as Leora prepared for another day of training. Rumors about her past victories had reached nearly every corner of the academy. Some students avoided her, unsure how to approach someone so unpredictable. Others tried to study her movements, hoping to uncover the secret behind her success. Leora, however, remained focused on her own training, knowing that attention from others could be a distraction if not handled carefully that day. The instructors announced an advanced combat simulation. The scenario was designed to mimic a real alien invasion, with multiple enemy squads, environmental hazards, and limited resources. Teams were randomly assigned, and Leora found herself grouped with both skeptical cadets and those who had begun to respect her abilities. They were tasked with defending a strategic outpost while managing resources and maintaining communication. From the moment the simulation began, chaos erupted. Explosions echoed through the simulated cityscape. Alarms blared and enemy drones advanced in coordinated patterns. Many cadets panicked, relying on raw strength and speed to survive. Leora, however, stayed calm, scanning the battlefield and noting patterns in the enemy's attacks. She observed how the drones reacted to her teammates' movements and identified weaknesses in the AI's logic. Small details, often missed by others, became critical in her planning. She directed her teammates subtly, using gestures and short commands to reposition them, create traps, and exploit openings. She moved through the battlefield with careful precision, taking risks that seemed reckless but were calculated. At one point, a large alien cadet attempted to charge through a narrow alley, but Leora anticipated the move and redirected him into a trap she had set moments earlier. The cadet survived, but the enemy squad was neutralized. Her teammates began to notice that Leora's presence was guiding them. Even if they did not understand the full extent of her strategy, as the simulation continued, the intensity increased. Enemy forces adapted quickly, forcing cadets to adjust on the fly. Leora's mind worked like a machine, constantly analyzing, predicting, and recalculating. She noticed that some cadets relied too heavily on brute strength, creating predictable patterns that she could exploit. She instructed others to feign attacks, lure enemies into traps, and use environmental features to their advantage. Her subtle guidance transformed the team from a disorganized group into a cohesive unit capable of holding their position. Against overwhelming odds, by the end of the simulation, Leora's team had not only defended the outpost but had done so with remarkable efficiency. Casualties were minimized, and the enemy neutralized far faster than any other team had achieved. Instructors who had doubted her abilities were forced to take notice. Commander Resin, observing from a distance, nodded in quiet approval. He had never seen a cadet, human or otherwise, manage a complex battlefield with such subtle yet effective control. After the simulation, the cadets gathered in the debriefing hall. Some whispered congratulations, others stared in disbelief, and a few avoided her eyes altogether. Leora remained calm, listening to feedback without comment. She knew that recognition was secondary. The lessons learned in the field were what truly mattered. Later that week, the Academy received an urgent message. A neighboring colony had reported a real incursion by a rogue faction, and cadets were required to participate in a rapid response operation. Leora's team was selected for deployment. The gravity of the situation was real this time. Simulations could not fully prepare them for actual conflict. Despite her youth and human fragility, Leora was ready. She had spent months mastering strategy, tactics, and improvisation. And now, it was time to put those skills to the ultimate test. The shuttle ride to the colony was tense. Her teammates were quiet, mentally preparing for the unknown. Leora observed the nervous expressions, noting how fear and overconfidence could affect decision-making. She remained calm, her mind already calculating potential scenarios and contingencies. She had learned that preparation, observation, and adaptability were far more important than raw power. Upon arrival, they found the colony in chaos. Buildings were damaged, energy shields flickering, and panic spreading among civilians. Enemy forces were advancing, using advanced weaponry and tactics designed to overwhelm defenders. Most of Leora's team wanted to rush forward, but she held them back. Quickly assessing the situation and identifying weak points in the enemy's formation, with a few whispered instructions and subtle gestures, Leora directed her team into positions that maximized defensive advantage. She used the terrain creatively, turning narrow corridors and damaged structures into natural choke points. She anticipated enemy movements, predicting attacks before they happened. When the first wave struck, Leora moved swiftly, neutralizing threats with precision. Her small size allowed her to slip past defenses and strike where the enemy least expected. Throughout the operation, Leora remained a constant source of guidance and support. Her teammates began to rely on her insight, noticing that her quiet presence brought clarity amidst chaos. Even cadets who had previously doubted her skills found themselves following her lead. She did not seek recognition. Her focus was entirely on achieving victory with minimal casualties. As the conflict progressed, the enemy grew more aggressive, deploying advanced units designed to overpower defenders. Leora adapted, modifying tactics in real time, and using her knowledge of human ingenuity to outmaneuver opponents. She created diversions, set traps, and coordinated flanking maneuvers that allowed her team to gain the upper hand. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned by the end of the operation, the rogue faction had been repelled and the colony secured. Casualties were remarkably low, a testament to Leora's strategic planning and leadership. Word of her actions spread quickly among cadets and instructors alike. Humans, once dismissed as weak, were now being recognized for their unique resilience and intellect. Leora, however, remained quiet, returning to her training with the same dedication and focus as before. Back at the academy, discussions about her abilities intensified. Some cadets were inspired, seeing in her a model of what determination, intelligence, and strategic thinking could achieve. Others were envious, unable to reconcile the idea that a human could surpass them in both simulations and real operations. Leora remained unaffected by these opinions, understanding that true strength came from mastery and preparation, not recognition or envy. Life at the academy continued with new challenges. Leora faced increasingly difficult simulations, each designed to test different aspects of combat and leadership. She consistently demonstrated that humans, though physically weaker than many alien species, could dominate situations through ingenuity, adaptability, and careful planning. Each victory built her reputation quietly, earning respect from instructors and awe from peers. Despite her growing fame within the academy, Leora kept to her routines. She rose early, trained rigorously, and studied patterns and strategies long after others had gone to rest. Her mind was a constant engine of calculation, always considering new approaches and refining old ones. She understood that the galaxy was unpredictable, and only those who could think ahead and adapt would survive and thrive. One afternoon, during a tactical exercise, a senior cadet challenged Leora directly. He was a formidable alien warrior, confident in his abilities and eager to prove himself. The duel was intense, with both combatants displaying skill and speed. Leora moved with precision, anticipating his attacks and countering in ways that left him off balance. She used the environment cleverly, turning walls, ledges, and debris into tools to gain advantage. In the end, she emerged victorious, her calm and strategic approach overwhelming brute force. The cadet, humbled but respectful, acknowledged her skill. This was a turning point. More cadets began to realize that underestimating Leora and, by extension humans, was a mistake. Her victories were no longer seen as anomalies, but as evidence of an overlooked human potential. Yet, she never allowed this recognition to distract her. Each lesson, each victory, was preparation for the challenges still to come. Even with her successes, Leora faced moments of doubt and fatigue. The relentless training, constant observation, and high-pressure situations were demanding. But she understood that perseverance was part of her strength. Humans had endured and thrived in the harshest conditions precisely because they adapted, learned, and never surrendered. Every challenge she overcame reinforced this truth. By the end of the third part of her journey, Leora had proven that humans were more than fragile beings. She had demonstrated strategic brilliance, adaptability, and the ability to lead under pressure. Her quiet presence and understated victories had transformed perceptions within the academy. Cadets who had once dismissed her as weak now watched her with a mix of awe, respect, and curiosity. That night, as she reviewed tactical simulations alone, Leora considered the path ahead. She knew the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, filled with threats that required both strength and intelligence. She understood that her journey was only beginning, and that the greatest challenges were yet to come. But she was ready, armed with preparation, insight, and the unyielding spirit that defined humanity. Leora had become a quiet force, invisible yet undeniable, setting the stage for victories that would echo far beyond the walls of the Veron Academy. Days passed at the Veron Academy, and the quiet human girl continued her relentless training. Leora had become a name spoken in hushed tones among cadets and instructors alike. Her victories, both in simulations and real operations, had transformed her reputation from underestimated human to tactical prodigy. Yet she remained humble, her focus always on preparation and mastery, rather than recognition. That morning, the instructors announced a new exercise, an interspecies skirmish scenario designed to test adaptability, leadership, and coordination under extreme conditions. Teams were mixed across species, and Leora's group included cadets who had previously doubted her, as well as those inspired by her past successes. The simulation was to take place in a vast, abandoned city with multiple terrain-types, narrow alleyways, collapsed buildings, open plazas, and energy hazards. The moment the exercise began, chaos erupted. Explosions and simulated fire lit the streets while enemy squads advanced strategically. Many cadets relied on brute strength and aggressive tactics, charging into danger without considering consequences. Leora observed patterns, noting the timing of attacks, the use of cover, and the predictable reactions of her teammates. She calculated multiple scenarios simultaneously, planning the most effective course of action, using subtle gestures and quiet instructions. She repositioned her team, setting traps and creating strategic choke points. Her small size allowed her to move swiftly, slipping through narrow passages to flank opponents or deliver critical information to her team. Each action was deliberate and precise, gradually transforming the chaos into organized defense. By the end of the first wave, her team had neutralized threats efficiently, drawing astonishment from observers and whispers from competitors. During the exercise, one of the more arrogant cadets tried to challenge her directly. He was a hulking alien warrior, confident that physical strength would override strategy. Leora didn't respond verbally. She let her actions speak. As the cadet attacked, she anticipated his movements, dodging and countering with calculated precision. She maneuvered him into a trap she had set minutes earlier, using walls and debris to her advantage. The cadet was forced to admit defeat silently, leaving the others to witness that intellect and strategy could surpass brute force. Following the exercise, instructors held a debriefing session. Leora's performance was noted with unusual attention. While she had not sought recognition, her impact on the outcome was undeniable. Commander Rezin, observing from the sidelines, gave her a rare nod of approval. It was a quiet acknowledgement, but it carried weight. Leora had proven once again that humans were unpredictable, resilient, and capable of outthinking the galaxy's elite. The next challenge came unexpectedly. A rogue alien faction had initiated a series of raids along a nearby trade route. The Academy was called upon to provide rapid response cadets for reconnaissance and intervention. Leora was selected for the deployment team. The mission was high stakes, and the team would be facing real combat rather than simulations. Despite her human fragility, Leora was prepared, her mind sharpened by countless hours of training and tactical exercises. The shuttle ride to the sector was tense. Cadets whispered about the human girl who had already earned a reputation for tactical genius. Some admired her, others doubted, and a few secretly feared the unexpected advantage she might provide. Leora remained calm, her mind focused on analyzing the mission parameters and preparing contingency plans. She understood that observation and adaptability were more valuable than brute force in such scenarios. Upon arrival, the team found the sector under attack. Supply stations were damaged, defensive units compromised, and civilians in danger. Many cadets reacted impulsively, rushing forward with weapons blazing. Leora hung back briefly, assessing enemy formations and weak points. She identified critical vulnerabilities in their tactics and quickly devised a plan to exploit them. With subtle signals and brief instructions, she repositioned her team, setting traps and preparing ambush points as the first wave of enemies advanced. Leora moved silently through the battlefield. She utilized cover, created diversions, and struck with precision where the enemy least expected. Her actions guided the team, allowing them to neutralize threats efficiently while minimizing casualties. Even cadets who had doubted her skills began to follow her lead. Recognizing the strategic insight she provided, the battle escalated as more enemy forces arrived. Deploying advanced weaponry and specialized units, Leora adapted in real time, modifying strategies, redirecting teammates, and using environmental features to create advantages. She coordinated flanking maneuvers, set controlled traps, and anticipated enemy attacks before they occurred. Her small size and agility allowed her to navigate spaces inaccessible to larger cadets, striking key targets and creating openings for her team. By the end of the operation, the rogue faction had been repelled, supply stations secured, and casualties remarkably low. Leora's leadership and tactical brilliance had turned what could have been a disastrous situation into a decisive victory. Word of her performance spread quickly, reinforcing the growing legend of the quiet human girl who could dominate any battlefield back at the Academy. Leora's reputation continued to evolve. Cadets who had once mocked her now observed her closely, curious about her methods. Instructors discussed her abilities in private, acknowledging that humans possessed a unique combination of resilience, adaptability, and strategic intelligence. Leora herself remained unassuming, focusing on continued preparation rather than public recognition. Challenges continued to escalate within the academy. Instructors designed simulations to push cadets to their limits, testing creativity, leadership, and endurance. Leora faced increasingly complex scenarios, each requiring rapid adaptation and strategic foresight. She excelled consistently, proving that human intelligence and ingenuity could surpass even the most physically powerful species. One day, Senior Cadet attempted to humiliate her during a tactical exercise. He deliberately misled teammates, hoping to create confusion and expose her weakness. Leora observed the deception calmly, adjusting her strategy to counteract it. By guiding her team effectively and exploiting the cadet's errors, she not only neutralized the disruption, but also turned it into a tactical advantage. Her quiet response demonstrated that underestimating her came at a cost. As days turned into weeks, Leora's legend grew. She remained humble, her victories understated but undeniable. The human girl who had once been dismissed as weak was now seen as a tactical prodigy, capable of leading cadets across species lines to victory. Her mind, her observation skills, and her adaptability had become her greatest weapons. Even with growing recognition, Leora maintained her disciplined routines. She rose early, trained rigorously, and studied simulations and combat patterns long after others had retired for the night. Her mind was always active, analyzing possibilities and preparing for the unexpected. She understood that the galaxy was unpredictable, and only those who could think ahead and adapt could survive. Her quiet determination, combined with unmatched intelligence, made her an invisible force to be reckoned with. As night fell over the academy, Leora reflected on her journey. She considered the challenges she had faced, the victories she had achieved, and the lessons she had learned. She understood that humans were underestimated not because they lacked strength, but because their true power lay in their adaptability, intelligence, and perseverance. These qualities had allowed her to outmaneuver cadets far stronger and more advanced than herself, proving that human potential was limitless. By the end of the fourth part of her journey, Leora had established herself as a quiet but undeniable force within the Varen Academy. Cadets and instructors alike recognized her strategic brilliance, adaptability, and resilience. She had turned skepticism into respect, doubt into admiration, and invisibility into influence. Yet she remained humble, her focus always on preparation and mastery rather than recognition. In the stillness of her quarters, she reviewed tactics, analyzed simulations, and planned for future challenges. She knew that the galaxy was vast and full of unpredictable threats, but she was ready. Leora's journey had only begun, and the human spirit she embodied would continue to shape her path, proving time and again that strength was not always measured in size or power, but in intellect, strategy, and the unyielding will to survive and triumph. The Academy's alarm blared early one morning, signaling an unexpected emergency. A massive alien fleet had been detected near a human colony, threatening widespread destruction. The instructors immediately assembled teams for rapid deployment. Leora, now known for her strategic brilliance and adaptability, was called to lead one of the response squads. Her reputation had grown across the Academy. While some cadets still doubted humans, many looked to her for guidance. As the shuttle accelerated toward the conflict zone, Leora analyzed all available data. The fleet was enormous, technologically advanced, and aggressive. Most cadets would have been overwhelmed at first sight, but she remained calm, focusing on the patterns of enemy movement, potential weak points, and the geography of the battle area. Her mind calculated countless scenarios, anticipating variables and outcomes with precision. Upon arrival, chaos dominated the colony. Buildings were damaged, civilians panicked, and enemy forces advanced with terrifying efficiency. Leora immediately assessed the situation, identifying strategic positions for her team and calculating the most effective ways to disrupt the enemy's assault. She divided the squad into units based on strengths, assigning tasks that maximized their potential. The first wave of attackers descended upon the colony. Leora's team responded with coordinated precision. She moved silently through the battlefield, using cover, exploiting enemy weaknesses, and redirecting forces as needed. Her strategic guidance allowed her squad to neutralize key enemy units, creating openings that shifted the battle in their favor. Even the most powerful alien cadets in her team began to notice how her small, human frame carried decisions and plans that outmatched even their raw strength. The battle intensified. More enemy reinforcements arrived, deploying advanced war machines and specialized units. Leora adapted continuously, modifying tactics in real time. She used the terrain to her advantage, turning ruined buildings, narrow alleys, and debris into traps and defensive positions. Her team followed her lead without question, trusting the calm precision that guided every move. What others might have considered reckless maneuvers were calculated risks, designed to create maximum impact with minimal casualties. During a critical moment, a large alien commander attempted to break the line of defense. Leora assessed his movement patterns, predicting his attacks before they occurred. Using a combination of misdirection, flanking, and environmental advantages, she maneuvered him into a position where her team could neutralize the threat effectively. Her ability to read the battlefield and anticipate enemy actions left her peers in awe as the conflict continued. Leora coordinated multiple squads, managing resources, communication, and movement with unparalleled efficiency. The alien fleet had expected a quick conquest, but her human ingenuity disrupted their strategy at every turn. She created diversions, set ambushes, and used timing to maximize the effectiveness of every strike. Each victory reinforced her growing legend, showing that humans once dismissed as weak could outthink and outmaneuver the galaxy's most advanced forces. Despite the chaos, Leora remained composed. She monitored every move, calculated probabilities, and adjusted strategies to match evolving conditions. Even as her team grew exhausted, she maintained focus, ensuring that every decision contributed to the overall success of the mission. Her quiet presence inspired confidence and discipline among cadets, showing that leadership came not from intimidation or brute strength, but from clarity, observation, and calculated action. By the third hour of the conflict, the tide had shifted. Leora's squad had systematically neutralized enemy forces, secured key positions, and minimized civilian casualties. The alien fleet, frustrated by their unexpected resistance, began to retreat. Observers from the Academy and the Galactic Defense Council noted her effectiveness. Recognizing that a human had orchestrated a victory that others might have deemed impossible after the battle, the Academy held a debriefing. Instructors and cadets gathered, many still in disbelief at the impact a single human had made. Commander Resin approached Leora privately, acknowledging her unparalleled strategic performance. He emphasized that her actions had not only saved lives but had also demonstrated the true potential of human intelligence and adaptability in combat situations. Back at the Academy, Leora returned to her routines without fanfare. She reviewed the mission, analyzed the outcomes, and considered improvements for future operations. While others might have sought recognition or celebration, she understood that preparation and growth were more important than accolades. Her mind, always active, continued to refine strategies. Seeking new ways to leverage human ingenuity, news of her achievements spread throughout the Academy and beyond. Students who had once doubted her abilities began to seek her guidance, curious about the techniques and mindset that allowed a human to excel in situations that challenged even the most advanced species. Yet Leora remained reserved, teaching only what was necessary and maintaining the quiet confidence that had become her hallmark. As weeks passed, Leora faced more complex simulations and real-world scenarios. Each challenge reinforced her reputation and tested her abilities. She demonstrated that human adaptability, intelligence, and persistence could overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles. Cadets across species began to recognize that underestimating humans was a mistake, and that Leora exemplified the unique qualities that made humanity a force unlike any other. Through all these experiences, Leora never allowed herself to become complacent. She rose early, trained rigorously, and studied strategies and simulations long into the night. her mind remained sharp, constantly analyzing, planning, and refining her skills. She understood that the galaxy was vast and unpredictable, and only those who could adapt, anticipate, and act decisively would survive and triumph. One day, a new interstellar exercise was announced. The scenario was unprecedented. Cadets would face multiple simulated factions simultaneously, testing every aspect of combat, leadership, and strategy. Leora approached the challenge with calm determination. She studied the simulation parameters, analyzed potential outcomes, and prepared contingency plans. Her approach was meticulous, ensuring that every decision could maximize efficiency and minimize risk. During the exercise, her tactical brilliance shone. She guided multiple squads, coordinated complex maneuvers, and anticipated the actions of her simulated opponents. Her small frame belied the influence she wielded over the battlefield. Cadets across species watched in awe as a human led them through challenges that others would have deemed impossible. Her actions were precise, calculated, and effective, demonstrating that intellect, strategy, could surpass even the most advanced physical capabilities by the end of the exercise. Leora had not only succeeded but had done so in a way that showcased human potential in its fullest. Instructors praised her ingenuity and leadership, while cadets gained a renewed respect for the underestimated human girl who had consistently proven herself. Leora, however, remained quiet, focused on learning and improvement rather than recognition. In the quiet of her quarters that evening, she reflected on the journey she had undertaken. From a small, overlooked human among the galaxy's elite to a tactical prodigy capable of commanding multiple forces. Her path had been shaped by preparation, observation, and unyielding perseverance. She understood that her strength did not lie in physical power, but in intellect, adaptability, and the unique ability to anticipate and respond to challenges. Her thoughts extended to the future. The galaxy was vast and full of threats, some visible and some hidden. Leora knew that every battle, every simulation, and every operation was an opportunity to refine her abilities. She had become a symbol of human potential, a quiet force whose influence was felt even without fanfare or recognition. The human spirit she embodied was one of resilience, ingenuity, and relentless pursuit of mastery. As she prepared for the challenges ahead, Leora remained focused and disciplined. She knew that greater threats awaited, that the galaxy would continue to test her limits, and that humans would always face skepticism and underestimation. But she was ready. Her victories had proven that even the smallest, quietest human could dominate in ways others could not predict. Her journey, though ongoing, had already transformed perceptions of what humanity could achieve. By the close of this chapter in her life, Leora had achieved something remarkable. She had taken the role of an underestimated human girl and turned it into a symbol of unstoppable potential. Her strategic mind, adaptability, and perseverance had